Well, thank you very, very much for that very kind introduction. I think of all what you have said about me, it could be reduced to one sentence. Our speaker today is old. Your Excellency, the Ambassador of the Kingdom of Norway, President of ASEAN Society, distinguished members of ASEAN Society, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a great privilege and a personal honor for me to be here as the third speaker for the Brian Ward Memorial Lecture Series. Before me in 2011, Ms. Margareta Wallström from Sweden, who happened to be also the UN Assistant Secretary General, but also Special Representative for Disaster Reduction, a Swede. Last year it was His Excellency Jan Egeland, who was UN Undersecretary for Humanitarian Affairs, Emergency Relief Coordination. Both of them came from the Nordic countries. You can tell I don't have blonde hair. But it is a tradition that is being established around the world now that we must share our experiences, our bitter experiences about the damage that we face more often, with more velocity, with more damage from natural disasters all around the world. This very moment, people in Bangladesh, in East India, are bracing to face the fury of Cyclone Nargis. We can only pray for them. But we do believe, just like Brian Ward, that it is better to be prepared. It is better to anticipate. It is better to increase our capacities to deal with these catastrophes than to pick up the pieces after they happen. And this very simple and common sense approach of Mr. Brian Ward also showed itself in ASEAN's own experience in handling one of the most damaging natural disasters we have ever experienced in the region. And that was Cyclone Nargis, the 2nd and 3rd of May 2008. I came into the office only 4 months before. I was supposed to implement the ASEAN Charter in 3 pillars: political security, economic, and socio-cultural. In the political insecurity, we have to deal with these kind of things. In the area of socio-cultural cooperation, we also have to work in order to bring our people together, sharing what they have and getting to know each other and sharing best practices to improve the quality of life of all of us, 600 million people in these 10 member states. And if we could do political security and socio-cultural, we are likely to achieve the one in the middle, which is the economic community. But hardly 5 months into the job, Cyclone Nargis decided to change course. Rather than going north, straight through the Andaman Sea, he decided to turn a bit rightward onto the delta of the Ayavati River. And the devastation was beyond imagination. 140,000 lives perished that dark hour of the 2nd and 3rd of 2008. ASEAN was not quite prepared. Myanmar was not quite ready. If we decide to open our borders for the international humanitarian flotilla coming onto our space, how can we be so sure that this will not be used as a window of interference into our internal affairs? 60 years after being closed down, the leaders of Myanmar, remember this one, it was before the elections of 2010. It was right when they were going to do the referendum for the constitution that they drafted. So they had learned to be rather reserved and to be rather concerned that the world is not going to use this humanitarian opportunity to come in and interfere with our internal affairs. In fact, Bernard Kouchner, at that time, Foreign Minister of France, already said France has, at that time, quotation, France has 4 ships already parked, anchored outside of Myanmar's waters, ready to march in. You are going to open it up or not? You are going to allow us or not? We will barge in. Mr. Kouchner said this is a clear case of responsibility to protect. You remember that phrase? You know that phrase. Back in 2004, back in 1999, in Rwanda, when the Tutsi and the Hutu were fighting each other, 3 million lives lost. The international community was just standing like that because Rwanda said it is our internal affairs. Nobody should come in and interfere. Kosovo was the same. Happened before. Kofi Annan asked, what do you want me to do? Am I just to be standing here and fold my arms and wait until they kill each other, they finish each other off, and then we blame each other? Or you give me another tool? The Canadian government, with the Norwegian government, came up with this commission called State Sovereignty and Intervention. 2 years into the work, I became an advisor to that commission. I didn't have time, I was foreign minister. And they came up with this phrase, not humanitarian intervention. We are not talking about the right to intervene, but we are turning the coin around. It is the responsibility to protect each and every one of us shall have as human beings. And when it was presented to Kofi Annan, he said, I wish I thought of it. wish I thought of that phrase, the responsibility to protect. So ASEAN had a political obstacle to go in and help Myanmar. But 140,000 perished, and it's going to be a stamp of failure on the part of these 10 countries moving toward community, and I was supposed to be driving that community building process. It will be a stigma on ASEAN forever. And then the world was piling the pressure upon us. By that time, Mr. Ban Ki-moon was already installed. By that time, Mr. Robert Zuelik became the president of the World Bank. By that time, the last government of the Labour Party in the UK, and there was a state minister who was very, very well versed about the affairs of the region by the name of Mark Malloch Brown, who before that was the administrator of UNDP, United Nations Development Program. They all call into every ministry of ASEAN. You have to do something. You've got to do something. The world is going to barge in, and you are going to be considered as an organization without any efficacy and without any conscience. I didn't know about all these phone calls coming in from around the world. In fact, 2 weeks later, 17, 18 of May, I was in Washington, D.C. For a personal reason. My first son was graduating from Georgetown University. The foreign minister decided to meet early morning of the 19th of May in Singapore, because Singapore was in the chain. I said to him, I am sorry, I can't be with you when you receive the UN diploma. Foreign ministers are waiting for me in Singapore. I flew off from New York, 16 hours into Singapore. And that was a very decisive moment that ASEAN learned, a political lesson that has led to a coalition of mercy. Because our mission was to save the other 4 million who were sitting on the fence, teetering between survival and death, depending on what the world is going to do for them. Straight from Changi Airport into the meeting room, Myanmar was given 3 choices, because ASEAN credibility was at stake. Because 4 million lives are now at stake. Because the whole world is concerned about what is going to happen to them. Human catastrophe that nobody is going to forgive us. So Myanmar were given 3 choices. 1, you close down the country and you are on your own, which is not very likely. The world is not going to allow you to be on your own on this one. Second, ASEAN and you together going in, working together. But we are not going to have that capacity. We don't have the experiences. We don't have the knowledge and the technical expertise. Me, leaving the parliament, going into the secretariat office, I didn't even know the difference between relief and prevention and recovery. All these things are technical terms. How to handle disasters. First, you relieve. Second, you help them to regain their livelihood and to recover from the impact, and then rehabilitation, and then redeployment. We did not have such expertise. The World Bank does. ADB does. Our friends from around the world. So, we are not going to be able to help you much. And the third is Myanmar. You are on top. You are country. ASEAN, because you belong to us, we belong to you. And together we must take the international community in with us. We created something very unique, very creative. It's called the Tripartite Accord. Myanmar on top, the UN and ASEAN equally next to each other. When we held the International Pledging Conference